Good morning, everyone. Let's get right to it. This is not unfamiliar territory for us. Many of you remember when I served as supervisor for District 5, 420, although it has been a tradition in San Francisco for many, many years, there was one year in particular that was a little different than most years. We saw thousands of people come from all over the Bay Area to Robin Williams Meadows to celebrate this unsanctioned holiday, Alex, is that what we want to call it? Right here in Golden Gate Park. And in fact, when I was supervisor of this district, I think that was the most complaints I got from constituents about the conditions of the neighborhood after it was over, the conditions of the park. And as much as we want to celebrate here in San Francisco, and as supportive as the city has been to continue to see this tradition occur, it has been really challenging, of course, to gather in large groups during COVID. Now, last year, what I really appreciate about people who come here year after year is we asked you not to, and you followed our health guidance. You followed the health orders, and you stayed away from Golden Gate Park and prevented that event last year from being a super spreader in our city, and so we want to thank you for that. Now, I know many of you thought that you would be celebrating this year and that we would be in a better place. Well, we are in a better place. We've seen the COVID numbers continue to decline in San Francisco. We've seen the hospitalization rates go down in San Francisco. We have vaccinated over 60% of San Franciscans with at least the first dose of the vaccine. But you know what? We're not there yet. We are not at a place where we can allow large-scale events. And so sadly, this year's 420 in San Francisco is officially canceled. Now, what does that mean? That means that we're asking you not to come to San Francisco to gather in large groups to celebrate. Robin Williams Meadow will be fenced off and unavailable for access to any member of the public. It means that we will patrol the area. We will be on the lookout for large, massive events in our city. Because the bigger issue for us is the last thing we want to see is San Francisco go backwards. We only need to look at what we're seeing around a number of variances that have entered the United States and what's happening right now in Michigan to help us understand that as much as we are tired of the virus and as much as we are excited about reopening, we are still not at a place where we can have large-scale events, large gatherings of people. We don't want to go backwards. Yesterday, I went to Bret Harte Elementary School in the Bayview Hunters Point community. I can't tell you how excited I was for those children who were going back into the classroom finally. When I had Good morning, everyone. Let's get right to it. This is not unfamiliar territory for us. Many of you remember when I served as supervisor for District 5, 420, although it has been a tradition in San Francisco for many, many years, there was one year in particular that was a little different than most years. We saw thousands of people come from all over the Bay Area to Robin Williams Meadows to celebrate this unsanctioned holiday, Alex, is that what we want to call it? Right here in Golden Gate Park. And in fact, when I was supervisor of this district, I think that was the most complaints I got from constituents about the conditions of the neighborhood after it was over, the conditions of the park. And as much as we want to celebrate here in San Francisco, and as supportive as the city has been to continue to see this tradition occur, it has been really challenging, of course, to gather in large groups during COVID. Now, last year, what I really appreciate about people who come here year after year is we asked you not to, and you followed our health guidance. You followed the health orders, and you stayed away from Golden Gate Park and prevented that event last year from being a super spreader in our city. And so we want to thank you for that. Now, I know many of you thought that you would be celebrating this year and that we would be in a better place. Well, we are in a better place. We've seen the COVID numbers continue to decline in San Francisco. We've seen the hospitalization rates go down in San Francisco. We have vaccinated over 60% of San Franciscans with at least the first dose of the vaccine. But you know what? We're not there yet. We are not at a place where we can allow large-scale events. And so sadly, this year's 420 in San Francisco is officially canceled. Now, what does that mean? That means that we're asking you not to come to San Francisco to gather in large groups to celebrate. Robin Williams Meadow will be fenced off and unavailable for access to any member of the public. It means that we will patrol the area. We will be on the lookout for large, massive events in our city. Because the bigger issue for us is the last thing we want to see is San Francisco go backwards. We only need to look at what we're seeing around a number of variances that have entered the United States and what's happening right now in Michigan to help us understand that as much as we are tired of the virus and as much as we are excited about reopening, we are still not at a place where we can have large-scale events, large gatherings of people. We don't want to go backwards. Yesterday, I went to Bret Harte Elementary School in the Bayview Hunters Point community. I can't tell you how excited I was for those children who were going back into the classroom finally. When I had lunch at a Thai restaurant in the Soma area, the owner asked, "Mayor, when are we going to bring businesses back? My business is suffering." People are still struggling. We are not completely 100% open, but we are in a decent place. In fact, we expected to have more news about going into the yellow sooner rather than later, and we have not gotten that news. So the point is, as grateful as we are as to where we are as a city and how we have kept the infection rates down, how we are one of the densest cities in the country with one of the lowest death rates anywhere, as grateful as we are for where San Francisco is, we're still not where we need to be. And so I'm asking members of the public who were making plans, which we know were happening online on social media, were making plans to come to San Francisco on 420. Unfortunately, we will not be able to provide the space and the support for any large-scale events anywhere in our city. We need everyone to celebrate at home, responsibly with your mask, in limited numbers, in whatever way, shape, or form, and be patient with us because as we begin to reopen, we can look back and be proud of the sacrifices that we made here in San Francisco to get us to this point. So I just want to, we have a number of folks here to speak, to talk specifically about what's going to happen so you can know that even if you want to come anyway, it's going to be virtually impossible for you to get to the location that you are trying to get to, because it will be fenced off, it will be patrolled, and unfortunately we won't be able to allow it to occur this year. And with that, I want to introduce Dr. Grant Colfax, who is here to talk specifically about what's happening where we are. And we also have Phil Ginsburg from Rec and Park, who can talk a little bit more about what's going on, and a number of other speakers here just to provide more information. And we're happy to answer questions after everyone's had an opportunity to speak. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Madame Mayor, for the introduction and your tremendous leadership during this unprecedented time. I'd also like to thank Director Ginsburg and the Rec and Park Department for inviting me to be here today for this important event. I'm here today to applaud the people of San Francisco for the sacrifices that you have made for following our health guidelines throughout this pandemic. Your hard work and commitment has helped us beat back 3 surges, including our winter surge, and we continue to move forward with reopening. But I'm also here with words of caution. We are watching with concern about what's happening in the Midwestern part of the country, including and especially in Michigan, as well as in other parts of the world, including Europe. And just yesterday, the director of the CDC, Dr. Rochelle Walensky, recommended that Michigan go into another lockdown to bring its surge under control. I think we can all agree, certainly the last thing any of us want to see in the state and here in San Francisco. And for now, we need to continue to be cautious and take the possibility of a 4th surge seriously. And gatherings like the 420 events we've seen in previous years could set us back significantly. I applaud our city partners and the 420 organizers for doing the right thing and canceling the event. Thank you. And I encourage everyone who looks forward to this annual event, if they choose to do so, to enjoy this day from home. We are making great progress in vaccinations. We are now vaccinating in San Francisco over 12,000 people a day, but we are still not at that point where we can let our guard down. We still need to double down on the things, in addition to vaccines, that we know slow the spread of the virus: the masking, the social distancing, avoiding non-essential travel, and limiting gatherings with people from outside of your household. This week, we will be expanding our capacity limits on outdoor gatherings in what we are calling the enhanced orange tier. But I want to remind people that under our current health order, outdoor gatherings are currently limited to 25 people in 3 households with masking and social distancing. With food, these gatherings are limited to 6 people from 3 households. Starting on the 15th, outdoor gatherings will increase to 50 people with masking and social distancing, with no household restriction, and with food served, that capacity drops to 25 people. So that is progress, and I know we are all eager to make even further progress and to put this chapter of limitations behind us, but let's continue to take the precautions necessary for now. Finally, I also have to mention that if you are going to purchase cannabis, we encourage you to procure your gear from licensed businesses and not from the street. Cannabis from licensed retailers is tested and safe for consumption. And again, I want to thank all San Franciscans for your ongoing support during this challenging time. When it's your turn, get vaccinated, do the right thing, and let's get through this pandemic together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Colfax. Now I want to introduce the new captain for Park Station, Captain Pedrini. Am I saying your name right? All right, Captain Pedrini.
Thank you. Mayor Breed, Dr. Colfax, Director Ginsburg, Director Rodriguez, and Mr. Kino. My My name is Chris Pedrini. I'm the captain of Park Station, as the mayor said. We all know that 420 is a long-standing event here, held here in the Park District. Many, we know, look forward to it all year long, and we do too. As been said already, unfortunately, we won't be celebrating in person this year. San Francisco has come so far in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and we just can't afford to let our guard down now. As you've heard others mention already, the area of Golden Gate Park, where traditionally all have gathered to celebrate 420 Day, that area will be closed. The city will be erecting fencing and installing barriers to limit control access. San Francisco police officers, working with our partners, park rangers, and parking control officers, will prevent access to these areas and keep traffic moving. We are prepared to do enforcement if necessary, but we're asking for your cooperation by celebrating safely at home or in your neighborhood. So again, please celebrate virtually this year so that hopefully all can celebrate in person next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain. You're like the third captain we've worked with at Park Police Station to deal with some of the challenges of 420, and the first one I ever heard say that you look forward to it as well. So with that, I want to introduce the Director of the Rec and Park Department, Phil Ginsburg.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank the Mayor, our Health Director and DPH, the Mayor, the Office of Cannabis, SFPD, our Park Rangers, Alex, all our partners here in this effort to continue to keep our parks joyous and safe. It's been a long year for us all, but our parks all over the city have been places where we've been able to pursue our physical and mental health. We're almost there, but we're just not ready to party. So as the Mayor alluded, and as Captain Pedrini alluded, there will be no party here at Hippie Hill in Robin Williams Meadow and 420. It will be fenced. SFPD and park rangers will be dispersing large crowds, asking vendors to leave. We will have lots of folks out there just to make sure that everybody is healthy and safe. So consider me Director Buzzkill. Getting outside is fine, right? 420 is a holiday. Some people celebrate it. Get outside, but gathering is not. You can also enjoy 420 from your own living room by live streaming hippiehill420.com, where there will be some virtual entertainment to help you celebrate the day that Captain Pedrini really likes, apparently. So anyway, our goal here is to maintain our treasured open spaces as places where we can, again, pursue physical and mental health. We welcome people to enjoy their parks. If you want to get out, go visit a local park. In San Francisco, we've got 225 of them. All of us live within a 10-minute walk of a park. And if you're coming from someplace else, our advice is there are amazing parks and open spaces all over the Bay Area, the Peninsula, and Marin. Use them. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. But when you go to the park, make sure you know you cannot gather in groups larger than 25 with a maximum of 3 households. So we will be enforcing the health orders throughout San Francisco. Enjoy our parks, but follow the rules. And as I mentioned to you before, this event initially has grown into something that none of us, I think, could have ever imagined, just like the pandemic. And the fact is, because we're San Francisco, we didn't just shut our doors and say it's not going to happen, we're going to end it. We decided to figure out what was the most effective way to make it safe, what was the most effective way to also recover our additional expenses in terms of our costs. How are we going to make it the kind of event where you can celebrate, have a good time, enjoy San Francisco like many other events that occur here? And we put our heads together, Phil Ginsburg and I and others, and fortunately we have identified a native San Franciscan who, we didn't go to him, he came to us, and he said he wanted to make this happen. I was on the Board of Supervisors, as I said, representing this district, and he said he wants to make it safe, he wants to work together, he owns a business on Haight Street, born and raised in the city, and really wanted to support this gathering, and as a result, put together a number of sponsors and entertainment and a number of resources to cover expenses related to transportation and things that are necessary to make this event happen. And we created an amazing partnership. And I think since this partnership has started, Alex, you were only able to do one so far? Is it two? So at this time, I want to introduce Alex Aquino, who is really three. We've done three. We've done about three kind of officially with the city, because technically under the law, you're not supposed to smoke in the park. But, you know, again, we're trying to understand and be open-minded about this. And so we get it. And we have worked with Alex over the past couple of years, and I want to introduce him now to say a few words.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Is it still morning? Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor Breed, Phil Ginsburg, for having me today. I'm Alex Aquino, event producer and community partner at 420 Hippie Hill. We are sad to cancel the event this year. I'm echoing all our concerns. Again, it's best for our public and public safety and health. We encourage people not to gather, instead take advantage of some of the great live streams that we're producing this year, in the safety and comfort of your home. We have a great comedy show lineup presented by Berner, co-owner of Cookies, hosted by Michael Blackson, Paul Rodriguez, Bob Saget, Little Duval. We also are working with our past sponsor, Weed Maps, for another live stream. It's a free live stream, hosted by Snoop Dogg, A$AP Rocky, Janae Aiko, and more. These live streams will be benefiting local businesses and local community programs. So yeah, please go to our website, 420hippiehill.com, and please don't gather, stay home, and watch the incredible streams. Thank you. You should come check out the streams.
Thank you. That sounds more fun than trying to get over here through the fences that we'll have set up that will make it impossible to do so. Thank you, Alex, and thank you so much for putting together an alternative where people can still enjoy 420. A lot of folks we know this year and this past year has had to do virtual events. Many people have adapted, and 420 no different. And fingers crossed, you'll all be able to return and enjoy Golden Gate Park next year. I also want to recognize the Director of the Office of Cannabis for the City and County of San Francisco, Marissa Rodriguez. Thank you for being here today. And at this point, happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Mayor, the state has now put Johnson & Johnson vaccines on hold for all counties. You yourself got the J&J shot a couple of weeks ago. How was this impacting the city, and what was your reaction when you first heard that this could be related to blood clots?
Yeah, I definitely was really saddened and disappointed and concerned when I first heard about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine being removed. But the fact is, unfortunately, we've had this challenge before. We know with a separate vaccine not related to COVID, the Pfizer vaccine, they talked about that. And my hope is that not a lot of people are impacted. And we're going to continue to do vaccines. We have the other vaccines which have not been problematic. I myself have not exhibited any symptoms related to any clogs or anything of that nature from the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Of course, I'm very disappointed because it's a one-and-done vaccine that we all have encouraged other people to get. And what we don't want people to do is be discouraged from getting vaccines, period. If I had it to do all over again, I'd still get the vaccine and, in light of the new information, probably would choose another option. Those other options have been in circulation and been provided to people even before the Johnson & Johnson was available. So I would just say for those who received the Johnson & Johnson, if you notice any concerns or any issues, to definitely contact your primary health care provider, or also reach out to the place where you received the vaccine, like a number of the community places we have available. This is a setback, but it's not going to stop San Francisco from moving forward and doing everything we can to provide vaccines to the public.
Madam Mayor, Andrea Borba from KPIX5. You announced a new sobering center today since we're here talking about drugs. Why? What is it? I would love to hear Dr. Colfax's opinion on it. How
Yes.
important is this to the city?
So what was asked was about the new sobering center that I announced today. And, you know, let's just back up, because this also goes back to even when I was on the Board of Supervisors and my support for safe injection sites. Now, we know that people struggle with addiction in various capacities, whether it's drugs, alcohol, gambling. I mean, there are a number of addictions that people face. And just because we don't want to see them doesn't mean they're just going to go away. So we can't keep doing things the same way we've done them and expect to get a different result. We have some amazing programs like Delancey Street and Health Right 360 and other resources, but things are a lot different right now. People who are using methamphetamine and fentanyl and all of these new drugs, creating this psychosis that can sometimes have permanent damage for many of these folks who need help, who may not necessarily be able to say, I need help. We see that playing itself out on our streets every single day. And so what was important for me is to not let it play out on the streets, to get people into a safe, clean environment with healthcare professionals who understand how to work with people struggling with addiction, and hopefully those people are able to get the help and the support that they need. And I will also say that as much as we want to see people get help, I have had family members that have struggled with addiction. We all know that until someone says, I need help, oftentimes it's a whole difficult process in getting them help. So these sobering centers and hopefully soon safe injection sites and places for people will help prevent overdosing, will help provide a transition from the use of this drug into some treatment option or some support, because ultimately we want to make sure that it's easier to access help than it is to access and purchase drugs on our streets, and that's what this sobering center is about.
Back to the issue that we're here today for, even though 420 has been canceled at Golden Gate Park, the marijuana industry has been doing phenomenal, from what I understand, during the pandemic. Can you speak to how that's affected the city's coffers, or maybe someone else who's closer to that, to say anything about the effect that's had on San Francisco?
I don't have that. Do you have that information right now, or do we need to get back to them?
We'll get back. But
Okay.
we do have jobs. We have been able to hire people during COVID.
Okay. I think we need to get back to you on the data, because we haven't received the latest numbers from the Controller's Office as to the financial impacts on the city's resources. But you know that we've provided equity grants for many of our equity applicants, people who unfortunately were disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs, and making sure that they have opportunities to have capital to open up these businesses. But yes, we do know, I'm sure, that cannabis and a number of other businesses have thrived as a result of this pandemic, and we'll have more data probably at a later time.
There is time for just one more, but the speakers are available after.
Thank you, Mayor Breed. This is a question from the Chronicle. Can you clarify what will happen to the doses of Johnson & Johnson that the city already had for this week? Were those already slotted out for people?
Yeah.
And if so, will they get Pfizer or Moderna, or have to reschedule?
I'm going to let Dr. Grant Colfax answer that question.
Good morning again. So right now we have the capacity to put over 20,000 vaccines into arms. We're doing an average of 12,000 because of the lack of supply. I think the Johnson & Johnson situation, we're following the FDA and CDC's lead on that. We're putting a pause on Johnson & Johnson. But because of the decrease in supply that the state announced earlier this week, we're getting a third less vaccine overall than we've gotten. Only a very small amount of what we're getting is Johnson & Johnson. So for instance, this week we've only gotten 500 doses of Johnson & Johnson. We will put those on pause. We don't anticipate there will be disruption in the currently scheduled vaccine appointments, and we'll continue to follow the situation very closely. No cancellations will be done as a result of this. We have very, very small part of Johnson & Johnson. So we're continuing to focus on getting the vaccines into arms that we do have, the vast majority of which are Moderna and Pfizer.
All right, thank you. Thank you.